Ping have done it again. They've released a new range of irons and we're going to be taking a closer look at them in this video. We're also going to head to Arizona to catch up with Ping themselves and see what they have to say about this new release. I've got the G740 irons and I've also got the I540 irons sandwiched either side of the G440, which has been a big hit amongst the golfers in the market. Now, in today's video, we're going to look at both of these irons. I'm going to get you some numbers and see how they perform for me on the golf course. But with that in mind, let's now head to Arizona and catch up with Travis, who is Director of Product Design. Travis, exciting times again with Ping. 2 new releases coming out. We've got the I540 iron, and we've also got the G740 iron. Just give us a little bit of a rundown of what we should expect with these 2 irons.
Yeah, so the I540 is going to be our offering in the player's distance category. The player's distance category is, I would say, out of all the categories we just talked about, it's probably the newest category in golf. It's that consumer that wants that look at a dress to feel like they're a player. Maybe they were at one point in time and they've just lost some speed, and we're trying to give that distance boost back to their game. And so everything we do with our I540 is we design it to be very much like a metal wood. It's going to be as thin and as flexible and as fast as we can possibly design into an iron, all while our belief is with irons that you need to be able to play with them as well. So creating peak height, stopping power, and really high flying trajectories to help that player play their best. Yeah. So it's very much a player's distance iron, but built to go as high as possible. So we want that ball to fly high and down line so that when you do get on course, it's obviously great to be fit in an fitting environment to have awesome ball speed, great numbers, but we realize you're going to play with them on a course and you want to be able to hit the green and also hold the green. So a lot of the new technologies we put into it strive to do that.
And also players that are getting better in their game and actually want to be looking at a club that is, like you say, a little bit smaller in its profile.
It's a really good bridge club to bring up that point between someone who is kind of in the spectrum of game improvement, kind of improving in their game. This will have all of that same performance in terms of ball speed and height that a game improvement iron will, but it does have that look and kind of that little bit smaller profile to address it, kind of that player likes to see. And obviously, as we look at the back cavity here, it's a very clean looking iron, but on the inside there's a lot going on that help drive performance. We have a covered cavity design, so that's a chrome plated ABS covering, and actually on the inside of here we have what we call inner air. So it's an insert for basically damping out the vibrations at impact. So when we hit that ball and it's explosive in launch, we're designing these products to be that feel that player still wants to feel and hear at impact. So
then we move into the G740 now.
Yeah.
So this one designed for those players that, well, just ultimately need a little bit of help, a little bit of height.
Yes.
Coming into the greens.
Yes, this is our super game improvement iron, and I think you can see by the sole width alone, there's a lot of mass down there that adds forgiveness and height. In comparing this to our G440 product and any of our other products in our lineup, this is going to be the biggest body. So when you set it down at a dress, you're going to see the visual offset. It's going to be our longest blade, our widest sole, and all of that ultimately helps drive total forgiveness to be as high as we possibly can, and also at the same time try to lower the CG as low as we possibly can. We put a very large sole in this iron. If you're a Ping historian, if you might think back to the Karsten irons or the G-Max irons, that was kind of the inspiration for this club, was creating a really wide sole to lower all that mass. We've saved a ton of mass in our designs. We put it as low and as far back, very similar to how we do our drivers, to help drive ball speed and launch as high as we can.
And then super forgiveness with all the perimeter weighting that you got with it.
Correct, and I think that is another, why you bring that up, it's another understated part of how our design philosophy and how we build irons and custom swing weight irons. That every single one of our irons in our lineup, you'll see there on the I540, you'll see here on the G740, we actually have complementing toe screws and tip weights. So we have a weight underneath the hosel and a weight in the toe. So when it's being assembled here in Phoenix or over in the UK, that iron, if let's say we need to add 10 grams to the iron to bring it up to the correct swing weight that the customer ordered, we'll add 5 grams in the hosel, we'll add 5 grams in the toe screw to ultimately balance and pull the mass as far apart as we can to balance the CG of each iron that we make while also boosting MOI. So yeah, it's all about perimeter weighting and getting that mass in the correct locations for performance.
Well, that was an absolute treat to have the opportunity to sit down with someone like Travis and figure out what goes on behind the scenes with Ping as to who these clubs are actually designed for. And Ping never bring out a club unless they're absolutely 100% guaranteed going to make some improvements on previous generations. But I've just brought them out onto the golf course because I want to put them to the test for myself and get a feel of them out here on the course, get the sort of looks at address, how they're kind of sounding off the face. And playing with them out on the course, see what the flights are looking like with both of these irons. And I've got to say, just the i540 there just felt pretty solid. So for those players that are maybe looking for an iron, as Travis said, that you've maybe played to a decent standard and maybe just lost a little bit of yardage, then maybe those clubs are going to work nicely for you. Or for those players that are working, kind of coming down in their handicap, you're going to get a sense of a player's iron, but maybe just a little bit more help. And then when we move into the G740 iron, just a little bit bigger in its profile, but still looks good. And even though it's a big club setting up behind the ball, giving me loads of confidence, it felt really solid off the face, which is well, I would say a big improvement from maybe previous generations from the bigger headed models that they've made. But let's have a little look now at the studio numbers and see what we're getting with both of them. Now, when it comes to the numbers, I've popped in there the G440 numbers as well, just to give you a bit more of an idea of exactly what Ping are offering us with all three of these irons, and I'm sure there's going to be one there that's going to probably suit your game. And as I would expect from the yardage point of view, that G740 just getting out there a little bit further on actually an average of 170 yards with a 7-iron, which is really quite impressive. The other two irons pretty much coming out the same. 161 yards that I'm getting from the G440, and then the i540 I'm getting out there 160 yards, so nothing in it when it comes to those two. Now from a spin point of view, exactly what I would expect to see. That G740 just coming out there with a little bit less spin at 5,200 revs on an average. We're getting 5.7 when it comes to the G440, and then when you move into the i540, we're getting a little bit more spin at 5.9. So you can see the sort of progression as you work your way up through, and ultimately the more spin that you have, the more control you can get when you get out into the golf course. Now from a launch point of view, that G740 just launching up there a little bit higher out of all three of these particular clubs, coming out at a 21-degree launch angle, which is pretty impressive, and you're going to see that when you get on the golf course. It's going to really launch up on you. I'm getting 19 degrees of launch when it comes to the G440 and 19.5 degrees of launch when it comes to the i540. Now, when it comes to ball speed, again, this kind of mirrors in perfectly to what we're seeing at the total distances of these particular clubs. But from a ball speed point of view, that G740 just coming out there a little bit hotter, coming out at an average of 118 mile an hour off the club face. Whereas when we look at the G440, I'm getting 116.6, and then when I look at the i540, I'm getting 116 miles per hour. So you can see that from a numbers point of view, we're getting some similar numbers when it comes to these three clubs. But what is interesting is the peak heights when they get out there to their perfect flight position, is we're getting them out there pretty much the same at 34, 33, and 34 yards high. Well, great numbers in the studio from both these irons, and kind of perfectly situated either side of what we're seeing out of that G440 iron. Now, the wedge game for me is really, really important, and I think manufacturers have really focused on trying to get the shaping of their wedges to blend in with specialist wedges in the bag. And Ping very much leading the way with this. And both of these wedges, even though you would say they're on the bigger profile in comparison to, let's say, players' irons, they've definitely got a nice bit of shaping which works beautifully into the specialist wedges that I've talked about. And setting up behind the ball, if I look at the i540 to start us off with, you know, I can see this really moving into those Ping wedges perfectly. And getting control obviously around the greens, extremely important as well. You don't want something that's going to come out too fiery. You want something that you can kind of control off a lie like this and get the distance control right. which I didn't have a problem doing that with that particular club. And then again, moving into the G740 iron, again, slightly bigger in its profile, but they've definitely brought the shape down slightly, keeping that rounded look. It does give you that confidence with this particular club for those players that want to try and help that ball up in the air. I caught that, even that one I caught a little bit heavy, but because the sole is there to help me, it's still moving that golf ball down towards the target. So both of these clubs offering something, just something even better again to blend in with those specialist wedges. Ping have nailed it again when it comes to their game improvement irons. I think listening to Travis, getting an understanding of what goes on to putting these clubs together, I think was absolutely fantastic, and I hope you enjoyed it. When it comes to club fitting, Ping do it absolutely the best, and they give the tools to your pros to help improve their fitting and give you the best clubs that are going to work best for your game. So go and have a conversation with your foremost professional team, book yourself in for a fitting and see which one of these clubs is going to work best for your game this season.